Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. And this video is to bring you a closer look at the International Closers number 9001-TP in a Duro or dark brown, dark bronze type finish. Duro for Duronautic. This video will serve as a review of the contents of the box. We'll take some dimensional properties. We'll talk about door closers. We'll go over the installation instructions. But first, let's start with a review of the contents of the box. The TP in the part number stands for Tri-Pack, T-R-I-P-A-C-K, and that is a term that is meant to let you know that it includes all the hardware needed to do the three common methods of mounting, whether it be a regular arm, parallel arm, or top jam mount. So, let's start with the dimensional review of this item. Here's the body only. Nice, attractive looking body. It does include the cover, as you can see. And installing the cover would be optional. If you don't want the cover, well, installing the cover may not be optional. Plastic cover is going to be included. What I mean by installing the cover may not be optional is if this is a fire-rated door, okay, there's your labeling indicating that it is in compliance. If your door closer instructions call out installing the cover, which it's likely that they do, they certainly show that it is. Yeah, so installing the cover would actually be required for a fire-rated door. It says on the first page, install snap pinion cap over shaft at bottom of closer. Well, it actually says when using full cover, pinion cap is not necessary. It may not say that you mandatorily, it may not indicate language that says step 8, install cover. The point of all of that is, the question is this: if you have a fire-rated door and your door closer works perfectly fine, latches the door, everything works, but it's missing the plastic cover, would you still have a fire-rated opening? The answer is, it depends. The answer is you don't have a fire-rated door, although it could depend. What the fire door inspector will default to is whether or not it's called out in the installation instructions. If it is, then you must have the closer cover to be compliant with the requirements of a fire door. If it's not called out or a cover isn't included, then it's not. I don't think that those will probably mandatorily say install cover. So if that's the language, then it would be optional. Believe it or not, you would fail a fire door inspection test if you did not have a cover if the installation instructions called out for it. That's a real thing. That's happened in the past. It's almost like a trick question. Overall length of this body. This, by the way, this weighs 7.6 pounds, the entire closer. Overall length of the body is about 11 7/8. That means the center line of these screw holes are going to be about 11 1/8. Okay, hold that tape on the end there. Center to center, about 11 1/8. Then your height is going to be 3/4 inch. Okay, that's going to be really important when you are replacing a door closer. The first question is, oh, I need this closer. Great. What's the center to center of the length of the horizontal dimension of the closer body? What's the height? That's generally 3/4 with these modern style units, but you do want to double check. Okay, this is a pretty full featured closer. This this is very full featured. This will have, from what I can tell, this will have delayed action, back check, sweep, valve, sweep and latch, I should say, and spring adjustment. So this has got everything on it, and being tri-packed. And the name International is quite synonymous with door closers to begin with. So I'm not surprised that this client ordered one that was so completely capable. So we've got the dimensional properties of the screw hole locations, the overall projection of the body, it's about 2¼ inch, overall width, just short of 2 inch. It's completely non-handed. This can be installed in any of the 3 methods of mounting for either left-hand doors, right-hand doors, left-hand reverse doors, or right-hand reverse doors. So we'll put the door closer body aside. Latch, closing. So latch, we're going to define this, but latch, we would call this sweep, delayed, back check. And that is your spring power on the end. Okay, let's set the heavy door closer body aside. Let's take a look now at the cover for some dimensional properties. The cover is important to know. The dimensional properties of the closer are important to know. The overall length of the closer body itself, it's about 12 inch. The overall height, it's about 3 inch, with an overall projection at about 2 3/8. The reason that's important is be cautious whenever you are doing a door closer in a regular arm mount when it opens parallel to a wall. If that wall is tight to where the frame wraps over the studs and that drywall is coming, right perpendicular to the frame, you're going to want to make sure that when that door goes to 90 degrees that the closer and its cover will not hit the wall. It does happen when they hold that wall super tight to the perpendicular wall. I've even seen boxes made out of drywall to accommodate the closer body going into them because of that. So that's the one trick that you have to be mindful of. We'll go over, I guess, some other pitfalls to watch out for when we hit the installation instructions. This will include its arm. Okay, this is the entire arm assembly. This is the main arm from the closer pinion to its elbow, the main arm, and then the forearm is the rest. Okay, that slide track sort of design that's going to go in there. You'll tighten that down. You've got your arm shoe. Okay, is what you've got there. This will allow you to install it in a regular arm and a top jam mount. If you're going to do a parallel arm mount, you then simply need to bring into the mix the parallel arm bracket. And we'll go over that when we get to the installation instructions, where you use each of them and why. This will include machine screws and wood screws in a complementary finish. The funny screw that holds the parallel arm bracket to the forearm. The funny screw, the odd screw that holds the main arm to the pinion itself of the door closer body. It'll also give you an Allen wrench for adjusting your valves. What you might do after you get that installation done is put the Allen wrench up inside of the cover, maybe with a piece of tape to keep it in place. Now, the next step for us is to go over the installation instructions, and let's take a look. Okay, yeah, let's take a look. Now, there is a link below this video to the installation instructions, so let's switch to the screen view so that we can take a better look at those installation instructions together. So this is indeed the item that we're looking at. We've got our International 9001 Tri-Pack in dark bronze, adjustable spring power, Tri-Pack surface mount closer, grade 1, storefront, storefront closers, yeah, sure, why not? Just as long as it fits on everything that you need. You obviously might need a drop plate or things of that nature to make it ultimately fit. But in the extended description, they go over what it includes: dress cover, complete arm. This does not. This package does not include through bolt and grommet nuts. These are self-drilling screws that are here, but through bolts and grommet nuts are not included on this. And they say the Storefront Bronz is the color. The dimensional properties that we've gone over are listed here. Okay, the 9001 tri-pack replaces the non-tri-pack and the fixed spring model. This is adjustable 1 to 6, and we're going to go over what that means and why that's important. Adjustable spring power, opening force. So the opening force is adjustable with back check and delayed action, controlled by separate regulating valve. Delayed action, we'll go over the valves, but delayed action was initially thought of as mandatory to have for handicap compliant openings, and it just really isn't. It's not mandatory because you can make standard closers as long as they comply with the reduced opening force. You can make them slow down to behave within compliance of handicap accessible openings. Adjustable spring power, sizes adjustable after installation. 2-speed control valves, closing and latching valves controlled by separate regulating valves. Again, adjusted after installation. Universal, non-handed, top jam, regular arm, what they call standard, or parallel arm. Parallel arm bracket included, and that's the TP and the part number again, tri-pack. Rack and pinion mechanism contained in a high tensile precision cast aluminum housing. That's important to know that it's aluminum because many other closers are made of cast iron. The argument that the aluminum people make is that the closer is a lighter closer, it weighs less, and that it would certainly need to be argued as an advantage because the less weight hanging on your door equals the smaller amount of wear and tear on your hardware, especially your hinges. The cast iron people would say that cast iron is I believe they might define it as a self-lubricating metal. They would certainly define that as a superior base material when it comes to manufacturing door closers. My personal opinion, having no real evidence of the matter, I can tell you that cast iron represents substantially lower rates of failure. All I can tell you is of the thousands of closers I've sold over the decades, cast iron represents less manufacturing defects, I suppose. Stable hydraulic door check fluid for any climate operation and constant lubrication. That does not mean you can install this in the exterior of a door. Here in southern Florida, where it very rarely gets below 45 degrees or so, I don't believe there's any problem at all in an exterior environment in the sense of the temperature of the fluid, but they're not intended for exterior use. High impact molded PVC dress cover. Door closer body casting is finished for use without the dress cover. 10-year warranty and grade 1 certified. Grade 1 means 1,000,000 cycles. Who knows how many times this closer would work before it failed? It could work 10 million times. But it is rated to a 1,000,000 cycle grade 1. 10-year warranty is really nice because that's what you're getting when you buy this closer. It's a 10-year warranty. Should you have any claim for warranty during that period, you will certainly need to contact the distributor that you purchased it from, having your original paperwork available to you. And it's not just going to be a replacement. There's generally the requirement of sending it to the manufacturer for review. And at that point, they would very likely credit you the original sell price and then sell you a new closer at the current sell price. So you're not on a permanent treadmill of closers that may go bad at 9.5 years. So that's how they kind of work that. It's rated for UL 10B and C compliant applications, neutral and positive pressure. I am not familiar with UBC 7.2. I'd have to look that up, the Uniform Building Code, and UL 228. I just don't recall what those are. And they are barrier-free compliant reduced opening force. Okay. These are the dimensions that we've gone over. That's a nice handy chart to be able to see. And the B dimension should be your first stop when replacing a closer. What is the footprint? Where are those holes located? so you can get the proper closer coming back to you. Options that are listed here down below. Okay, now let's switch over to the installation instructions, and those are listed here. Now, installation instructions are always going to come, there's generally 4 pages to them. The three of the 4 pages will be your installation type. Regular arm is one, parallel arm, and top jam. You are then going to have, so we have regular arm, we then have top jam, we then have parallel arm. The 4th page, sometimes it's the 1st page, will be generally a summary of what's included. They're going to give you an idea of how to adjust the item, any notes that govern the entire installation aspect, and then, of course, the how to adjust spring power, meaning what to do with this door closer based on the weight and the width of the door. Okay, so it's going to come from the factory set for a size 3, which is going to be for up to a 3-foot exterior door. That's between basically 100 and 140 pounds. You're dealing with something epic. You're going to rotate clockwise the spring adjustment 3 revolutions if you need to increase that power to a size 4, and you get the picture, so on. And then counterclockwise, should that spring power be too much for the door that you've installed it on. And the guide is there. Okay? Minus means counterclockwise. Counterclockwise. So the 4th page will definitely be the notes that govern the overall installation. Let's go over the types of installation. Each of them will all be the same sort of arrangement, meaning the way that you approach the installation is the same on all of them. And what I really mean by that is, on all of your installations, on all of the 3, there's always going to be an A dimension. That A dimension is very important because it governs the degree of opening. So, A dimension, if you're going up to 120 degree in a regular arm mount, that A dimension is basically 7 1/8, 7 3/32. If you need to swing that door up to 180 degree, which you can, you're going to change that to 3 15/16. What else is important to recognize on your installation? What side of the closer body faces the hinges? You'll notice that the spring power adjustment is not on the side of the hinge. That will change if it's parallel arm. So what's important to know is, what's the A dimension? Okay. And the graphic here will show you what the arm should look like when it's installed. Regular arm means that the forearm is perpendicular to the face of the door. You'll see installations where this is way off at a crazy angle. It's just installed wrong, is the bottom line. So always your A dimension. The other thing that I will state is what is incredibly important is observing your dimension from the top of the door. Because if you've ever walked through a door opening and you've heard a clanking of a door closer arm, it may be loose or it might just be installed in the wrong location. That's the arm actually hitting the door as the door is pushed open. So A dimension, spring power adjusting nut is away from the hinges on a regular arm. We go down past top jam to parallel arm. We're still going to have our A dimension, but because we've got a parallel arm bracket, we're going to be looking at this B dimension. And again, related to the degree of opening. There's always going to be a reference to the center line, the vertical axis of pivoting, that center line, the center line of the hinge, to those holes. You'll always observe that height. You know you've got 11 1/8. You know that it's going to be 3/4 inch because that's going to be called out on your on the top jam mount is what we were just looking at. And that's really all you have to observe. Now, you'll note on the parallel arm, the spring power adjusting nut is now towards the hinge. I've had people call me and say that the door closer absolutely won't open. It'll go 1 inch, and if I push it further, I think I'm going to break something. So that, to me, is a telltale sign of, okay, do you have the body reversed? And that's generally what happens. You'll note in a parallel arm fashion, the main arm is parallel to the face of the door. Okay. we go up and look at the top jamb, same rules are going to apply. A dimension, or the dimension from the vertical axis of pivoting to that first set of holes. Then we're going to get down here and you'll see that the forearm is perpendicular to the face of the door. So how to determine which method you're going to use? Well, the method that you're going to use is going to be based on where do you want the door closer body to be located. Let's just assume it's on the inside. If your door swings out, you can only do it in a top jamb or in a parallel arm. You can't do a regular arm because a regular arm means that the closer body is mounted on the pull side of the door. That would be the outside. If you're doing a door that is in swing, you can do it any of the three ways, but what side of the door do you want the body on? If you want it on the pull side, or the what would be the secured side of the door, the interior of this, if your key is out here, then yeah, you'd want to do a regular arm. I like, the application of not using parallel arm to keep the door closer body out of sight of people. If this is a restaurant, those doors are going to swing into your bathroom. Put the closer body on the interior of that opening when you can, because you don't want your clients to see the closer body on the outside. Now, speaking of the parallel arm mount, because of the arrangement of the door closer body, of the door closer arm, and the pinion, the rack and pinion, and the way that it articulates with the forearm, there is a loss of efficiency of the door closer being able to pull that door to the closed position. You will find that you have to increase the spring power adjusting nut to the next largest size in a parallel arm installation. Okay, so that means on your chart, if you know you're doing a door that's 130 pounds, that is a 36-inch exterior, but you're doing it in a parallel arm mount, you're going to follow this clockwise turn of 3 revolutions, is what you'll probably find. Okay, and somewhere in here I'm quite sure that it makes comment about parallel arm. Now, the valves, let's talk about the valves. The latch speed is generally from 0 degree to about 10 degree or so, maybe 15 degree, and that has its own valve, the latching valve. The sweep speed goes out to about 90 degree, but your back check is really going to kick in, your back check valve is going to kick in at about 80 degree, and as you push the door closer open, if you have back check, you will notice that it will become noticeably different when pushing that door, because an additional valve is going to come into play in this range. The intention of back check is to help limit the uncontrolled movement of the door in the opening cycle if it were to get captured by wind and then forcibly pushed. That's what back check does. That's its job. Now, it's not a dead stop, but if you have an exterior door and it swings out, you want back check. The downside of back check is some people don't like to feel that resistance when they get to that 80 degree or so opening. You can play with the back check control to maybe bring that out a little bit further or to reduce it. Now, delayed action, that means, I don't see a chart here at all showing delayed action. That means when you have the door open past 90 degrees, you can literally make that door with a combination of the delayed action valve and your latch and your closing speed valve. You can make that door take 2 minutes to close if you want. You can make it move super slow through its closing cycle. And because this is so fully featured with the delayed action and the back check, you can really control the door very, very well because of the confluence of all 5 controls: spring power, back check, delayed action, closing, or what we would call sweep, and latch. Yeah, they call it sweep here. Sweep. Now, regarding the adjusting of it, do not make any aggressive changes to the valve position at all. Okay? Install the unit and then test it. If you need to make an adjustment on the valves, do it 1 revolution at most at a time, then cycle that door a couple of times. The point being is if you were determined to turn those valves counterclockwise to where you're opening the valve to make it move faster, you can go so far as to remove that valve and the fluid will come out and it will render the door closer inoperative permanently, and it cannot be repaired and must be replaced. So be very conservative when you are changing this stuff. This is being set from the factory for a size 3, which is the absolute overwhelming majority of door size. So you shouldn't have to adjust it very much to begin with. So be mindful of that. You don't want to get a chest full of oil after it comes spurting out of the closer after you manipulate the valve and then cycle the door one time, and boom, the pressure builds, shoots the valve stem out, and now you've got a closer that doesn't work at all. The installation instructions will be specific for each unit, but there's mostly all the same. The concept, the overwhelming concepts are all the same. Read that. But again, the important thing is, where do you place it on the door to achieve your degree of opening? Observe your height dimension, get that correct, and make sure that the power nut adjusting is on the proper end of the door. If you do all that, you'll want to read this one time, but if you remember, just those things, where to locate it vertically, where to locate it horizontally, and make sure that that spring nut is on the right side, you will have a really good operating door. Let's finish up this video on camera. Now, I'm very partial to international closers. I will look for ways to send as much business their way as I can. I find them to be a no-nonsense type operation, and they have a very comprehensive offering of material, not only just closers, but other hardware, hinges and exit devices. And you know what the other thing is? People know that name. So a client calls you for a door closer, and if they are in any sort of commercial entity at all, even if they own a restaurant, they may be familiar with the name International because they've probably changed closers over their career. I find that the name International is a name that people are comfortable with, and I have no reason to dissuade them away from International, unless, of course, it might be maybe an availability constraint. But you'll find very good quality operation out of their unit. And it's a name that people do, again, and including myself, do indeed trust. Got all those valves listed there. Got your spring power over here. You can't see it, but it does say increase, decrease kind of thing on that decal. I can barely see it just looking at it, and I would rely on the installation instructions that are linked to down below. I would encourage you to look at their product catalog. There's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can review their current product catalog and see this comprehensive listing of material that they have, much more than just closers. They have a couple of warehouses I'm familiar with. Somewhere, don't quote me, but it might be Tennessee, in the central time zone, I believe. And then, of course, the West Coast. So they're able to really balance and hit the parts of the country very well because of where they're located. And I find that their inventory is generally very deep. I do find that they're accommodating and that their lead times are prompt, reliable, and predictable. So, I can't tell you there's a reason not to buy them, and I can tell you that all of the reasons aforementioned are a reason to consider them. You can buy an imported closer from a lot of places, and I don't believe that you're really buying the closer as much as you're buying what's behind it, the service, its reputation. How do they react to a warranty claim, things of that nature? A closer is a durable good. It's meant to last. They warrant it for a decade, so they're pretty confident in the unit. So keep that in mind when you're considering a closer. And I think International hits those important check boxes, so to speak. If you have any questions on the International, this is their 9001 TP and a DU finish. And I think it's an attractive body just without the cover if you elect to not use it. Any questions on this or any other international product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.